I'm TJ Campbell, the Tire Information and Testing Manager at the Tire Rack, and this is TJ Talking. And today we're here with Karl Koenigstein from Michelin. Karl, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you just tell us what you do and how long you've been doing it?
Hey TJ, it's great to be here. My name is Karl Koenigstein. I am the product category manager for Michelin brand. I work on, let's say, the mom and pop tires, entry, Rec LT, and Grand Touring all season category for Michelin.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. And this will be an opportunity for both of us to talk about a product that I assume is pretty near and dear to your heart, which would be the Michelin CrossClimate2. It's a very exciting product, being the mainstream Grand Touring all season tire that is 3-Peak Mountain Snowflake branded, severe service rated, severe snow service rated. So if you wouldn't mind, just to begin with, tell us a couple of the goals or a few of the targets that you and the team were trying to hit when you developed the CrossClimate2.
So with CrossClimate2, we saw an opportunity to bring a product to market that built on the success of some of our previous products in terms of safety as far as wet grip is concerned, but then really amp it up with much better snow performance level than we had in the past.
Sure.
So that was a big part of it. We also wanted to deliver a really strong wear performance in terms of 60,000 mile warranty that is really achievable. And so those were the two primary things that we went after.
Certainly, understood. And we have driven that tire. Did you know that we've tested that tire at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha.
I figured that was the case. Yeah.
Sure, of course, and we haven't shared the results yet. The report hasn't been published publicly yet, but I will say it was an impressive tire. One of the things that really stood out while we were driving it was the noise, or in fact the lack of noise. From the moment we first advertised that tire, we get all kinds of questions or statements. Oh, it looks loud. It looks loud. It looks loud. It was not. What are some of the strategies that you use to make it such a quiet tire?
Right. So we have a technology in it that we call piano. It really is kind of the next generation of the traditional block phasing kind of analysis with different block lengths and trying to have them all hit at different times. It isn't just that technology. There's also a kind of an expectation in the market when you see a directional tire like that. People think back to early high performance directional tires or snow tires. And those products, of course, weren't really designed for the Grand Touring all-season market. They were sport tires, and so it was all about wet and dry grip, or they were snow tires, and it was all about snow. And so maybe the noise wasn't all that important to the development criteria. So we spent a lot of effort into getting that right. And then the other thing that is different especially from the old high performance tires is, it's relatively small block lengths, right? So,
right.
If you remember back to some of those old sport tires might have, 40 or 50 pitches on them going around the tire. CrossClimate2 has a lot more than that. It has the same number as a traditional Grand Touring all season tire. So in that sense, for the first time, it starts from a level playing field against the traditional all-season touring tires.
Ride comfort was another high point for the tire. It's such a good product in that, it has the 3-Peak Mountain Snowflake branding. It has that wintertime traction. It has the wet traction, but when you're driving it, it doesn't feel, it's not different in any way than a touring tire that doesn't. In fact, it's right up there with some of the better Grand Touring all-season tires that we tested or that we have tested. What did you do? How did you focus on the ride comfort of the tire?
A lot of the same kinds of approach. We used our latest philosophies about footprint shape and so on, that slightly rounded footprint that cushions cushions the blow when you hit straight on obstacles and stuff like that, or step offs, or pothole edges, that sort of thing. It's built on similar casings to the previous tires that we have, so we weren't reinventing the wheel in this case. And again, I think you may even come back to the same sort of impression about it. It looks sportier than it is. If you know what I mean. So you may be sort of mentally prepared. Oh, this is going to be pretty firm, and then when it's kind of like everybody else, or kind of right in the hunt, or even on the better side, you're like, wow, that's really impressive. So we didn't have a huge comfort goal specifically, but it had to be acceptable in this segment. So it's a Lexus tire, it's not a Supra tire, so it's got to be right for those kinds of cars.
Sure. No, it makes perfect sense. That is the key demographic for it. So it needs to behave as such, And tell me about the there's always the trade-off between snow and wet traction. Honestly, a lot of people probably don't know that. A lot of people think, low friction surface is low friction surface. It doesn't matter whether it's, is it wet, or is it slick because it's water, or is it slick because it's snow? But in reality, there's, those are performance conflicts, because it does have very, very good wet traction, just like its predecessor did, the CrossClimate Plus, and just like the Premier All Season did. But then it also has, that three-peak mountain snowflake light snow traction. How did you manage that trade-off?
So one of the big compromise breakers there, TJ, is the V formation tread pattern. Has tread blocks all the way across it, so that the full tread width of the tire can dig in the snow. The problem with that is, how do you get the water out from under the contact patch, or else you're going to have really a hydroplaning issue, right? So the second part of the V formation is where that really comes into play, and the really steep angles in the center that then swoop out to the lateral angles out at the shoulder is a very, very efficient pattern for taking half the water and shooting it out the outside of the tire, taking the other half of the water, shooting it out the inside of the tire, because you're not going to be able to run it just straight out the back. So that was a huge wet versus snow compromise breaker. So that was part of it. The second part of it is that we are using a new generation of tread compound that is very different at the very fundamental level in the way it operates. And you spoke about the wet versus snow trade-off, and in compounding it's almost a three-way trade-off. It's wet versus snow versus wear. And it's kind of the old pick any two. You can have wet and snow, and you've got a snow tire, and the wear's not very good. Or you can have wet and wear, and you've got a ultra high performance tire, and the snow's not very good. Okay, but this new compound, the thermal adaptive tread compound, is really a compromise breaker in terms of being able to make a compound which stays flexible in snowy conditions, right down in the 20 degrees Fahrenheit minus 5 to 10 degrees C, still flexible and working without giving up the wear that traditionally we would have had to give up to get there. So that's the two big parts of it: being able to hold the line on wet, keep the good wet performance that we had with some previous generation products, and bring the snow way up.
Sure, just expand the envelope, as they like to say. Yeah, that's great. Along the lines of wear, one thing that we are already getting a lot of questions about is it being a directional tire, only being able to rotate front to back. What has Michelin done to help mitigate any noise, the increase in noise that may occur due to the lack of options for rotation? And as the tire wears, do you anticipate that it'll stay mostly as quiet as it is when new?
So for this issue, a lot of the stuff that helps make it good for noise when it's new helps reduce the tendency to develop the heel and toe wear, or the scalloping wear, or the alternating block wear that can develop on the non-driven axles. It is important for consumers that use the CrossClimate to keep up with that rotation, to make sure that the tires move back and forth on the two axles to even out the wear. I mean, even if you had no issue with irregular wear, if you never did the rotations, you would have, one tire that would go 30, the front axle might go 30,000 miles, the rear axle might go 120, right? So you need to do those rotations and get it smoothed out, evened out over the life of the tire to get the most value out of it. We believe if you even on a front drive car, if you keep up with rotations and keep it going regularly, it won't come out of life because of irregular wear. It'll wear in a normal fashion.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, it's not a sport tire, and it's definitely not a sport tire. I mean, it's a Grand Touring all-season tire. But almost regardless of the tire category, part of our testing is always, on our dry track, which is right here over my shoulder. And it was surprisingly competent and good. I mean, is that just kind of a happy circumstance, happy coincidence that happened, or was there any design there?
The dry performance was kind of an Easter egg in that we didn't have to have it to bring this product to market.
Sure, of course not.
But it is like really good in the dry, especially in dry braking. And that is another feature of the V formation tread pattern, because what's happening there is that although the blocks look very small, and in fact they are quite narrow, in the center of the tread, they are in the longitudinal direction. If you're only thinking about the straight ahead, they're actually pretty long. So they're pretty big blocks, and they're capable of generating a lot of longitudinal force before they begin to slip. So we ended up with really strong dry braking performance, which is just another aspect of the kind of the total safety that we're trying to bring to market with the CrossClimate2. A big step up in safety in winter conditions, in mild winter conditions, slush and snow and the like. And then, by the way, even if you live in the South or the Southwest and it's dry 300 days a year, well, it's got great dry traction too. So it's really a nice package there in terms of regardless of the season, it's really good grip tire.
Sure, and regardless of the climate where you live, also, that's a big concern with this tire, or really any of the more modern Three Peak Mountain Snowflake branded tires, is you don't want a consumer to see that symbol on the sidewall and think, oh, it's not for me. I live in Texas, or whatever the case may be. It's a good tire in all conditions. It just also happens to have, it's this and the added benefit of the the light snow traction that earns that Three Peak Mountain Snowflake symbol. That's not a defining factor of the tire, and it definitely doesn't exclude a certain portion or a certain region of the country, thankfully.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We've been very careful with the way we talk about this tire to explain this is a terrific all-season tire. It is fantastic wet, really excellent dry, solid tread wear. And by the way, also in the suitcase is this outstanding snow performance. I kind of pitch it like it's a little bit like checking the all-wheel drive box, on a RAV4 or something like that. Even if you live in the South and you never need it, if you get that one or two snow days a year, it's awfully nice to have it. When it's there, if it didn't cost you anything else. And in the case of CrossClimate2, it really didn't cost you anything else.
Right, certainly. Yeah, you said in the suitcase, it's like the Mary Poppins bag. You just keep reaching in, and you've got all this. You've got the dry, you've got the comfort, you've got the wet, and hey, by the way, we have snow too. Yeah,
it's the bag of plenty.
Yes, exactly. That's great. I mean, and a lot of consumers don't understand the technology required to make a tire that does all of these things and last 60,000 miles. And it's really an impressive feat. I mean, there's no other word to describe it. It's impressive. But I guess kind of my last question for you is there anything that you would have liked to have seen different? Is there anything that you just wish, man, if we had an extra year of development, we could have maybe changed this? Is there anything like that on this tire?
To be honest, TJ, when I saw the final performance results and everything, I went from being mildly skeptical to totally a believer.
You're a believer, huh?
You know, it was really amazing because, you know, I've been in the game a while, and I was like, you know, I kept waiting for the other shoe to fall. Oh wait,
Sure.
oh wait, but it really hasn't happened. This product is pretty much on point from all of the testing we've done, and we have really tested this thing in and out every way from Sunday.
That's right. It's the most tested tire in Michelin's history,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yeah, for sure. You know, we did 2 sizes in the development. We ran on multiple vehicles for all the testing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we wanted to be sure that we didn't end up with something that had been tuned to just that car. You know what I mean? And it was great on that car and it wasn't good on anything else, because we knew, you know, the look was going to be polarizing or would be might put some people off. So we really wanted to be sure we'd done our homework, had done our sums, and that we had something that worked great on a Camry and worked great on a CRV and worked great on a Sienna and worked great on an Equinox. You know, we took the time to test it over and over, different times of the year, different vehicles, different conditions of life, and really has moved the goalposts in a way that surprised even me.
I'm sure it's going to surprise some of the competitors too. You've made it more difficult to play in that segment, that's for sure. You know, I had a feeling that was going to be your answer, that there wasn't really anything that you wanted to change, and not just because, you know, it's your product, but because we've driven on it. And, you know, as somebody that's driven it on the road, in the dry, in the wet, and in the snow, it really does feel like the complete package. And you were listing you rattled off a list of vehicles that it works on, and let me tell you, it works on a BMW 4 Series pretty darn well too. So definitely, you know, good job there. You know, bravo Michelin. It really is a great product. So we're happy to carry it and happy that you guys brought it out.
Sure, I've very much enjoyed it. You know, I've been living this thing for 18 months. You know, or you know, even a bit more, but 18 months of really, really solid, you know, this is it, this is the way we're going, this is what we're going to do. And, you know, to finally get it out the door is just fantastic. We just need more sizes.
All right, we're waiting. All right. Well, Karl, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
TJ.